and for the Christian readers, it may sound, listeners, I want to make it, and Jewish ones even more especially. Mm-hmm. When it says that God chose the Jewish people, it doesn't mean that they're wonderful or better. It just means that they're the marker. You should make it very clear. There are only two people, two nations in the entire Hebrew Bible. That's the 5 books of Moses and all the writings and judges and etc. and Joshua and judges and etc. In all the Hebrew Bible, there are only 2 nations that God says explicitly, if I had my way, I would destroy them. One was Amalek. And that's where we relate Hamas to Amalek, and it happened to. And what's the second nation that God said if he had his way, he would destroy them? It's in Deuteronomy, the Jewish people. He said, "You've been such a bunch of lousy people. You didn't follow my laws. You read it. It's chapter 33, if I remember correctly. You're such a bunch of lousy people. I give you the laws. I give you. You rebel right and left. If I had my way, I would destroy you, but I can't." Because the nations of the world, I'm paraphrasing the literal Hebrew text, but I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. The nations of the world would say it was by their power. It was by their power that this happened, and they wouldn't realize that it was I that made it happen. God made a covenant with us that we would be a marker in this world. I had a very close Christian friend that her mother said to her, "You want to believe in God? Follow the Jewish people. The history doesn't make sense." And it doesn't make sense. God, and that's why God says, "I would like to destroy you, but I made you my marker, not for better. You're such a bunch of schlemiels, you don't follow my, etc., but you are my marker." And it is identical to the argument that Moses used when the nations, when we've trekked through, we come out of Egypt. We're about to go into the promised land. And our forefathers say, "Oh, no. The women didn't say this, by the way. The men said it," because the text is very clear about who dies in the desert in the next 40 years. Only the men over 20 years old. And under 20, they didn't, because there's a connection between the amygdala and the frontal cord that leaves the biology out of it. But the men say, let's go back to Egypt. We can't beat them. And God hits the roof and says, "You know what? I'm going to destroy you and make you a new people." And what's the logic that Moses uses? He uses it in Genesis. He uses it always. It's never his logic with argument with God is never, "Oh, they'll be good people." Moses knows the facts of life. We're always rebelling.
He's met the Jewish people.
He knows it. So what does Moses say? You can do it, but it's not in your best interest. Because if you destroy them now on the edge of going to the land, the people of the world will say that you destroyed them here at the entrance of the promised land because you weren't strong enough to beat the nations in there to give them the land. And God backs down. You can read the text. People don't like to read it that way, but it's exactly what Nehemia, and God repents. So Nehemia means repents or rethinks the actions. And he says, "You're right. I won't, but they're going to watch for 40 years now in the desert." And those people that were old enough to know better, they will perish in the desert. They won't come in. But the children under 20, will come in, because under 20, you're not responsible for the connections in the brain.
Yeah.
So, but it's always the argument. That's not going to be good. The argument works. And this is the problem that God says himself in Deuteronomy. "I would have destroyed you, but you're my marker." And look at the history of the Jews.